Hey, stream started, so y'all better,
Hey,
be
hey,
good,
dude.
be nice.
I was about to say something really toxic too.
Hello, weebs.
All right, I put the WoW's tactics session up in Adopt announcements. If you guys want to go look at it, I got it up on the stream.
Dead silent.
Yeah,
As 18 people don't want to be here on stream.
I'm shy.
Press like and subscribe, guys.
I'm
Okay.
eating.
I turned off push to
Ring the
talk,
bell for
so
notification.
sorry for
Yeah.
the inevitable dogs barking. They get angry when I don't feed them early.
Hold on. Dronsky's got to say sponsorships first.
Oh yeah, this is sponsored by Adopt and the zero income we get.
I made $2 yesterday.
Off of what?
I can't say for legal reasons.
Oh god. So this one we're gonna talk about spotting, guys, and I know again as usual we want to keep like this talking about things short, and then we can go do some like practice training battles and stuff. The idea with this is we talk about a subject. For the most part, you walk away with a few main ideas from it, such as with this one spotting, how to abuse your spotting, and how to use good spotting to your advantage, and how to use bad spotting to your advantage in certain ways. Gull and Lark are going to talk a lot about this. The kind of main things I wanted to talk about, I'll go kind of overview, and then I'll let Lark and Gull go off, and also shout out to Lark for putting together all these WoW's tactics pages you're about to look at. So give him a thank you if it helps you out. But one is depending on what ship you're using, you want to you pick your ships based off of are they good at spotting, are they bad at spotting, what you want to accomplish with your team. Alpha team likes running Zhao's because Zhao is one of the most stealthy cruisers. The only cruisers that are better have better concealment are Wooster, Minotaur, and that's it. So for the most part, they can outspot most other cruisers. So we use that to our advantage, and it also is good to tell us if that Zhao is spotted and that Zhao is not firing its guns. It tells you if there's an enemy Wooster or Minotaur on the other team, or the DD. It tells you what is likely over there. If there's no other cruiser that outspots the Zhao, you'll hear us call out saying, the Zhao saying, "Hey, I'm spotted. I'm not firing. The DD is over here." That's useful information for your team. That's very important to call out things like that. Knowing where the DD is super valuable. So you want to make sure you call out things like that, and knowing what outspots you. So that again, as Zhao, Minotaur, Wooster outspot you. If you're playing Wooster, the only thing that can outspot you is another destroyer, is a destroyer or the Minotaur. So pay attention to what the enemy team has and what's over there, and you'll generally be pretty good. I think that's like the main big topics I have. I'll let Lark and Gold go on, and then I have a list of things, but I think they're going to touch on most of it, so I'll try to not repeat it. So I guess Lark, if you want to go take over.
Yeah, sure. If you guys take a look at that first slide that I've got pulled up on the tactics page, I basically just wanted to show you guys that even some of the most dangerous cruisers for stealthy ships, things with the radar, there's still areas that, as long as your detection is pretty solid, you can take advantage of the dead space between their detection and their radar ranges. So, everybody's scared of radar, especially destroyer players. But really, unless you see a Minotaur or a Yu Yang, there's basically no reason for you to be. If you look at Worcester, there's a 800-meter gap where you will spot the Worcester, and Worcester is one of the stealthiest ships out there. It's even easier on Moskva, Stalingrad. They've got a 2.1 kilometer gap that you could exploit. And even Des Moines. Des Moines' got almost a kilometer that you can keep him perma-spotted even if he's not firing his guns and still not be able to get counter.
Yeah, just to be clear what Lark's talking about, the hard red line is the radar range, and that like serrated line is the spotting range of the ship. So that area between that serrated white line and that hard red line is the area a DD or a cruiser can go spot them and not be in their radar range.
Well, those at the Stalingrad, the Bosphor also have like a short duration of radar, even though if it goes that far.
Correct.
And since they just add the 5-second rule, where it's like they only see you for, they're the only ship that can be able to see you for 5 seconds, and then all the other ships can see you.
Mm-hmm.
Which that just lessens it down even more.
So. Exactly. So what Lark is really trying to say is this area between these ships is the area that you can play around in. You can even see Alpha Team has done that. Kozuro did this once against the Des Moines in season 2 or 3.
3, yeah.
You were in a Zao, or Kozuro was in a Zao, and he needed to spot a Des Moines, and just sat in that little spot where the Des Moines range at that point was 10.6. It was spotted. The Zao's was 9.7, so he had almost a kilometer of spotting range that he could stay within and just keep that Des Moines spotted where Kozuro was not spotted. Sorry, go ahead, Lark. I just wanted to make sure everybody was. Oh, and you can kind of see Minotaur and Yu Yang are the two ships in clan battles that can stealth radar, or they can radar you without being spotted.
Yeah, if you're playing a stealthy ship like a Zao or a destroyer, the two ones that you want to look at on the lineup when you're getting ready to get into battle is Minotaur and Yu. Those are the only ships that will be able to radar you without themselves being detected, because their radar range extends past their detection surface. I know this is a lot of basic stuff for people, but I was just trying to. People are really scared of radar, and when it comes to spotting and being, putting your ship in a position close to enemy ships. But as long as you beat their detection radius, you'll be good. And I'm ready to go to the next slide unless anybody wants to chime in on.
I think you're good.
Alright, this is just a short breakdown of the destroyer detection radiuses. It starts off with the most stealthy, the Shima and the Mod Gearing, which are like essentially the same detection range. It starts off at 5.6 kilometers. And then it goes out to Yi Yang, which is 5.8. Graz and Z52, which are a shy over 6. And Haragumo, that's at 6.2. And of course, Kalroffs, which is almost 8. Basically, it shows that when you're going to spot, you don't have very much time in a destroyer before you'll spot the enemy DD for the most part, even if you're something as stealthy as she. So it's really important that when you're trying to spot things, you basically never want to be going dead at where their ship may be. You always kind of want to be going like shying off to the side, or preferably spotting something in reverse, because you want it's a real short gap where you'll be able to outspot an enemy DD depending on what you're playing. But it's also important as far as spotting goes in a destroyer. You see, like if you're playing Haragumo, and Gold can talk to this, it's only a couple hundred meters before you could spot a Shima, and that's kind of where you'd have to make a choice of, you want to commit into where you think the destroyer is and get him spotted because it shouldn't take very long, or trying to disengage. All right, and for this third slide here, this is the Sleep and Giant map, and this is a common thing that most clans will do is stick. If you notice the red circle here, that's a Des Moines. It's got 10 kilometer radar and 11 detect basically. And if you're playing the Scout DD, there's plenty of positions where you could spot both their Des Moines and their radar station and also spot stuff on their team. Basically, if you use the E and F1 line squares and lines, you can keep the Des Moines perma-spotted, and also spot the Zhao without exposing yourself to the enemy. Because even though you're pinned tight up against the map border, he can't push forward to get you within radar range when he knows he's hard spotted, because he'll just open himself up broadside to all the other ships that are supporting you in the north. That was just a practical example, and there's been a lot of times where, you know, in the destroyer you think you want to be sinking ships and doing all this stuff, but you could take your destroyer, and there's a ton of games, and Kozero, Lobster, Kaiser can attest that all I did was sit my ship right here, and all I did was perma-spot that DM so it could be deleted by whether it be Claim shooting cross map or Arzao's hitting that position, hitting that DM tucked in there, or pushing them back so that we can make moves. So it's when you're doing spotting and being a scout, it's not always a glory thing, but you're doing a super important job, which is lighting up enemy ships. And there was even times that you can push down this way, keeping their Zhao spotted. Oops. And stuff like that. That's one practical example. Alright, and then this is another map that gave us trouble early on in this last season, but this is showing the same example, but instead of a DD, you could do the same thing in a cruiser. So Zhao has a 9.9 detect, as you can see by the ring, and Moscow's got 14.1, and Henri is 13. And I'm sure we all love blapping the hell out of ships that are broadside and Zhao. But a good Zhao player, and Koz has done it in a lot, he can back down that one line and keep the majority of the enemy team spotted, almost like a scout DD would. And as long as he holds his fire, he can reveal the position of the enemy team without putting his ship at risk. Because as long as he stays within this area here, or even down into here, he's not able to be radared. So the big thing is when you're trying to be stealthy and spotting, don't discount it just because you want to do damage. You abuse your spotting. I can't tell you how many times Viking and Claim were just able to straight delete ships just because they're spotted 20 kilometers across the map. So,
or they do so much damage to them that those ships now know they can't be aggressive.
Yeah, so sometimes when it comes to spotting and abusing your spotting, like, just know that your Russian cruisers have a very safe zone that you can keep them perma-spotted. Henri, same deal. That there's very few ships out there, if you're playing something stealthy, that you really have to worry about. And usually when I'm playing in CBs, the first thing I'll do is look at the enemy lineup and say, what outspots me, what do I outspot? And try to gather as much information from that as possible.
The other thing, just to kind of add on that one real quick, is as a Zhao player, know what you can and can't do. Like right now, as Zhao, if a Henry and even a Moscow is pretty quick, they are going full speed at you. You want to make sure you are moving forward almost immediately. You need to look at those two ships, see what they're doing, and make that judgment call. A Henry will run down a Zhao, and it's happened where we make mistakes where that Zhao player moves out too late. Henry runs them down, and the Zhao gets killed or focused down, or at least pushed so far out of the fight that they're useless. If that Henry is moving forward on you at full speed, or what looks like full speed, start moving north or away from them as fast as you can. Don't wait for them to get close to your detection range, because they will get you, and a Henry should win in a close range fight. Zhao does a lot better at a Henry in a long range fight. But also remember, you have torpedoes in Zhao that are 12 kilometers. So let me draw a circle real quick. Everything in this blue circle is in your torpedo range. So, send torpedoes towards the Henry. They don't even have to hit, just to slow them down or make them turn away. Do something that you can. Now, don't put yourself in a bad situation to get those torpedoes off. If you can, torpedoes, again, they don't have to hit their area of denial. Or maybe even they just force that ship to go to a certain angle that maybe gives your battleship broadside on the ship that's chasing you down. Torps are good for many, many reasons. Not even doing damage is, it's not even their primary goal sometimes. So I just wanted to add that.
Can I just quickly interject a little tip that I say quite often on Torps? Your Torps really have an effective range at targeting ships outside that 12 kilometers. So in order to figure that out, look for the intersection point between your aim line and their sailing line. And if that intersection is within your 12 kilometers, you'll hit the target. That also works for shooting at ships that are sailing away to check that they'll actually have the range.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Yeah, no. Another point when it comes to spotting, I kind of hit it already, but make sure that if you're going to do spotting things and stealthy things, you always kind of want to go stern in to any kind of scenario where you're going to be abusing your stealth. You want to be able to bail out quickly. If the enemy starts moving forward, you want to get out of their radar range, etc. You want to be able to react quickly, and your boat always is going to go so much faster forward than in reverse when it comes to getting away. But you can actually play with the couple 100 meters that some ships have, like Worcester. You can still safely spot them in a DD if he's static and you're reversing into him, because you also over accelerate most ships too. So so basically, you want to kind of, even against spotting against other DDs as a DD player, you're going to want to enter any situation where you're trying to scout, either perpendicular to where you think the ships are, or preferably stern in to where you think the ships are. If there's like on Land of Fire, there's you're contesting the sea cap and you know the enemy DD's in there, you should never charge bow in to another enemy DD that you know is in a cap. If you want to spot them and you know you can outspot them, you want to back down into them, reverse into them. Take the time. The other thing too is it keeps you safer from torpedoes if you're stern into something, because you could accelerate, turn out. And that's another thing about spotting. That's basically all I wanted to cover.
This one is one that I added, the last slide. So this is kind of an example of using your bad detection for you. And this is just one specific scenario that we've done. This also works with like battleships and so on. In this case, we position our MOSFET not exactly like this. I just kind of put this to get the point across because this MOSFET would potentially be out in the open. I guess MS can kind of talk about exactly what he does, but the real point I wanted to make is how to use your ship with crappy concealment in your advantage. In this scenario, you can do something where if you're spotted, in this case, this enemy DD moves up right over here, spots this MOSFET. This MOSFET calls out to the rest of the team that they are spotted. This tells everybody else that there is a DD or something moving through the center. And in this case, we've done certain plays where we will put our Des Moines right here as well, and the Des Moines is spotted overlapping as well, and then this yellow circle is the Des Moines radar range. This Des Moines, or even that Moscow pop radar, we catch that DD in right in the open in the middle. And if nothing else, even if we don't radar and kill that ship, we know where the DD is, and we know where they're moving, and we know that we could be moving in certain other ways. I've seen several teams do this on, like, say, Tears of the Desert. The ACAP, do we have a Tears? I'll make one real quick. So Tears of the Desert.
Oh, Gretzky, I can make Tears go on about Sleeping Giant.
One second, I just wanted to draw this point in real quick. ACAP, I forget exactly where ACAP is, but it's something like this. The circle right here. You put a Yamato or a Moskva, something with bad concealment. What is Yamato's current concealment?
14.
14?
14 point something.
14.1.
So
I can check it quickly.
Yeah, it's 14.1.
So you could position, say, Yamato like right here. And again, I'm not saying exactly you should do this. I'm just giving you different ways to think about using your concealment, even whether it's bad or not, to your advantage. Some teams have put a Yamato there or a Moscow, something with bad concealment, and that'll tell them, hey, as long as the ship's not spotting, if that ship gets spotted, it means something is in this zone right here, probably the DD. And then you either radar or you get your DD to move up and go spot it, or whatever radar ship that has radar over that cap gets ready to turn on that radar to keep the DD or cruiser, whatever it may be, out of the cap. So with good communication, you can turn a bad concealment to your advantage. It gives you information, if nothing else.
Yeah, knowing your spotting ranges, and your radar and detection ranges, that's stuff that's going to give you information about what the enemy team's doing with their movements. You know, like Gusky said, if you're Zhao and it's a 1DD game and there's no Zhao on the enemy team, or even if there is, and you're spotted, you know the DD is like danger close to you. You can pull out information by being spotted, by spotting that because getting the info of what they're doing is the most important thing to winning in like competitive levels of clan battles. You can't just bully your way with for the most part with 5 Stalingrads and a Ghost Curve first and just expect it to work. But knowing, using your stealth, using spotting, and pulling the information out from that, that's the most important thing, and that's what wins games more than raw damage by far.
Mm-hmm. Is you can, I don't know if a lot of these higher level games, most of the games are won with either one ship getting sunk or 0 ships getting sunk. It all just comes down to area of denial, who gets points, and so on. So, getting kills not necessarily won't win you in the games, at times. So, just having this knowledge of where the enemy's at, what they're doing, where they're weak, where they're strong, is what separates good teams from bad teams. I guess, see, Gold, did you have anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I could talk about a bit when you don't have the spotting advantage.
Yep.
Most of this is going to apply to if you're on the off flank, because if you're on the main flank, the problem with a lot of things you can do is it applies somewhat, but it's unusual just because most of the times you have roughly equivalent numbers of ships. So if you're outspotted and you try and do something aggressive to get them spotted, you'll take much more damage than they will. But just some things to consider when you're on the off flank and you're outspotted, especially in a DD, which team has more effective support? So like if you have a Minotaur right behind you with radar, you have more support than their DD, unless they have like multiple more ships than you. But if your only ship is Des Moines, like 12 kilometers behind you, you're basically on your own. You should also consider, are you actually going to win the fight if you find their DD? It's important not to pick a fight that you're then going to miserably lose. For example, if you're, let's say, a Yu Yang, and there is a Gearing who is stealthier than you with concealment mod, probably not going to win that fight, especially if he torps you. Knowing who's faster isn't actually a huge deal, but it's more useful in, can I actually run away from this, or are they just going to be able to chase me down? And what's the actual difference in concealment? As we saw on the second slide, which was super useful. Most of the DDs are actually basically about the same, except for the Kavros. So what I said is true. Most of the DDs have about the same concealment. So as they said before, if you're moving head-on towards each other, there's no DD in the game except for like maybe a Shimakaze versus a Kavros, where they can avoid being spotted. Partly because you're traveling towards each other and it's a short distance. And even if they're at sort of an oblique angle, the lag between when the game there is some lag between when the game detects you and when you get drawn. So especially in Zao, I've noticed as a full stealth Zao against slightly not full stealth Zao, you'll see them right as the detected sign shows up, but really you won't be drawn on their screen for another few seconds. And a similar thing happens here. They'll spot you first, but you'll still get in spotting range before they can react to turn away if you're on a colliding course. The question is, when can you try and get that colliding course with the enemy D? So if they have the support advantage, don't try that. You're just going to die because they'll spot you and they'll outshoot you and you'll die. That's when you want to kite away. Ideally, if they have more support, it means they have more ships because your ships are positioned well and their ships are positioned well and they have more, so they have more support, which just means you need to hold. About the only thing you can try and do is like hide behind an island and then surprise them, which works not very well, especially if they have RPF. If it's more even, which might be you're both playing 2DD comp, and each of the sides is 1DD with a cruiser. If you can take the fight, and you know where their cruiser is, and you know where your cruiser is, and you can optimize the support team a little bit, that's when you might want to try just being like, okay, I've pulled back a little bit, I've gone in a loop. Let me try just going straight forward, especially if you have RPF and pushing up a little bit, and just see if you run into them. At the very worst, you're going to be zoning them out of your cap area, which is nice. The key is if you don't push up so far that they're then like, oh, I wanted to spot you because now I have better support. If you can, especially if they have a cruiser with slower shells, or one that's far away, if you get spotted and run, a lot of times they'll chase you so that, and sort of tunnel in on that so that their cruiser can fire on you for free. And if you can draw them back into a radar or something like that, or turn around or anything like that, that can be a good game to play. Another choice, it's better when you have more support than them, but let's say you're a Harugumo with a Stalingrad and you're against like Yu Yang and let's be silly and say Hindenburg. You can ignore the Yu Yang and just go kill the Hindenburg. And then you outsupport them. Then you have more ships than them. Because the Shimakaze can't really decide to engage on you, and you can out-DPM their team. The key to that is to have yourself between where their Yu Yang is and where your Stalingrad is, so that you don't get torped and lose it. And if you have the support advantage, you can do the same sort of baiting thing, but you can also just decide as a flank to just outpush them and say, if you want to outspot us, that's fine, but to do that, one of your ships has to stay close where it's vulnerable, and also not fire at us except for torpedoes. So we will take the outnumbered fight against the rest of your ships, or at least poke them down until they can't engage anymore, and then just continue to push forward. And that's about what I had. On that last push forward idea, make sure you have hydro up and things like that, because most of the stealthy ships also have torpedoes. Comments?
Actually, I do have a question. Yeah, just curious. The Yu Yang has been nerfed I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. Do you think it's possible it can beat any DD using the legendary module and using radar at the same time?
Like I guess the question is can Yu Yang beat another DD in a gunfight running radar with the legendary module?
Yes.
What does the legendary module give it? I forget.
More DACA.
More DACA and more torpedo, 15 torpedo reload and plus minus 10 gun reload.
Give you the
What
exact
does it?
numbers. I
What does
guess.
it take
Check.
up, or what's
Concealment.
Concealment. So your concealment would be like 7 point something. I think.
Maybe it'll become equal. I guess that's probably a better answer
so-
for Lark and Cole.
Yeah, without the legendary mod, I would say that just about any destroyer in the game beats the Yu Yang, unless it has support, which is why it's good because it has radar, because it can stealth radar, or it can hide behind an island and radar for someone else on their team. But one-on-one with no other ships, you have two problems. Without the legendary mod, I think you're mostly just outgunned by everyone. With the legendary mod, I'm not sure how much it affects it. The three closest ships would be the Z-52, the Shimakaze, and the Gearing. And the Z-52 and Gearing have very similar engagements, and you can counter a bit the Z-52's ultimate win card of smoke up and press hydro by being able to radar him out of that. But the Shimakaze is a little bit different because it wins fights by having high accuracy and dodging the low accuracy cells from other DDs. So you definitely cannot win a kiting engagement, but you can maybe win a close-in engagement, which leads you into the real problem with the Yu Yang DD knife fights is that it can't hit other DDs with torpedoes. So it's never going to be a safe close-in brawler because every other DD can say, you got in close to maximize your DPM. Here are torpedoes, and they will kill you if they hit you. So now you have to do three things at once. You have to look at the torpedoes, look at the enemy ship, look at the ship you're fighting, and dodge the torpedoes and also dodge their shells. So it can become very hard. It's better for the utility than for the knife fighter, though other opinions are welcome.
Yeah, I guess the thing we did is if we saw Yu Yang on the enemy team, we knew with our DD, if they, like, say, Sleeping Giant, the Thunderdome ACAP, we could put our DD and their DD in there, and our DD would probably win a one-on-one fight most of the time. Of course, assuming there was no support by either team, that our DD would win. We usually ran a Shimakaze or a Hurgumo. And the other thing is that a Yu Yang really wins if it does have support, like Cole was saying. So if our DD got radared, they would generally try to stay. If they thought the Yu Yang might be close, they would try to stay in a position they could quickly and easily get away from the enemy and just avoid that fight altogether. Is the best thing you could do.
Alright, thanks.
Yeah, Yu Yang's not looking very good for clan battles. A few teams did use it pretty effectively against us. You do have to.
The other thing about it besides the radar is its torps are just really, really good at killing cruisers and battleships too. It's probably the biggest threat because you have to have hydro up or you can't dodge.
Anybody else have questions? Now's the time.
I wanted to make another comment. There's a series on YouTube by Wargaming, how it works, such and such. There are 2 videos on spawning. It's such an important and complex system, and you should absolutely watch them. One of the more fine points that people don't know that is gone over in the video is that spawning is determined by the enemy having line of sight to your highest armored section, which is usually the bridge. And this means you can do some pretty funny things by positioning, say, a light cruiser like a Worcester behind a bit of island cover, and you can actually have part of your ship in the open, firing at the enemy, but still be unspotted by abusing that mechanic. So those kind of fine points are things you should pick up over time by watching videos and stuff like that. But that's one that I notice and use sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of places where you could exploit that mechanic, like on Land of Fire in the Sea Cap. If you're a destroyer, there's like those little tiny islands in the middle of the sea cap. You can dip in and out of spotting by using those islands. So if you want to spot something for half a second, you could back up. Because your bridge will pop up, those islands dip and rise. You could pop up, spot something on the other side of those islands, and be able to move back quickly into cover, and the relative safety of being behind those little islands. There's like 3 or 4 of them that have little dips that you can use to spot things and keep yourself decently safe.
Yeah, and there's another good spot in the southern cap on the right-hand side of Tears of the Desert. Those islands are really low and easy to use for that.
Yeah.
Something else I wanted to bring up is that if you're in a shitty detection cruiser like Stalingrad, Moskva, Henri, and you have a partner with RPF, if you deduct, like if you get spotted, unspotted, spotted, you can kind of guess using the islands and your friend's RPF where the DD is and counterplay to his torpedoes without needing hydro. Obviously, yes, do be careful, but like you can sort of guesstimate where the DD is without needing to radar or something like that.
So, I guess if you does anybody else have questions? We're gonna move on to the practice session in the training room.
Yeah, I got one. I know this is. I mean, it's kind of related to spotting, but what about where's like the right time to like smoke up when you like how does smoke come into play with?
Your smoke is not for yourself. As a DD in clan battle.
Disagree. Strong
okay,
disagree.
You're a Haru player. Okay.
No, I'm actually with Goal on that one. I'll let Goal or Lark talk first since they know better than I do.
I would say this. I would say that smoke is not related to the spotting game. It's related to one of 3 things that you want to do. The first one is you want to live. If you're going to die if you don't smoke, you should probably smoke. And you're 100% certain, yeah, I'm going to die, and smoke will save me. Smoke's a good idea. Because it doesn't help you. You don't get to smoke again if you're dead.
Or if you're going to take a lot of damage.
Yeah. The second one is there's a way I can use my smoke right now that will. This is the part of the spotting game that will allow my team to get advantageous trades on the enemy team. And effectively, actually, that's the other reason. The third one was just going to be if not my team, but me personally. It is a little bit different. But for my team, I want to be going fast. I want to lay it in a long line for them. I want to let them have a way to escape. And ideally, you also want to be able to spot torpedoes going into the smoke and things like that. But that's the second good use of smoke. And the third one is I personally am going to smoke and shoot people. And this happens a lot more in the Faruga mode than anything else. And there you want something isolated a bit, something that obviously no radar ships in range, and you want to have a good idea of where torps can come at you because that's how you die in smoke.
I was going to comment like the third one's being really selfish. Kinda.
Not if you murder a Henry because you smoked up.
That's true.
The other thing is careful what you're smoking up against. Yu Yangs love they love to bait your smoke where they get into a close-in gunfight and you smoke to disengage, but you're within their radar range, and then they know they can't be spotted, so they can barrel down towards you and make sure you're in their radar range for the entire duration. Generally, if you're in a close-in fight with the Yu Yang, don't bother with your smoke. They want you to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you see, like, just like Gusty said, if you're in a fight with Yu Yang, you don't smoke up until his radar duration stuff. There's no point. You can put some damage and hurt out on him because they'll usually hard charge you, trying to keep you in their 7-6 radar range. But if you're Nishima, Haru, basically any other DD, you can put the hurt on them too while you're disengaging, as long as you like turn away from them and dump torps on them and all that fun stuff. But if you smoke up and try to sit, they're gonna radar you from the safety of their own smoke. So don't even do it. And as far as smoke goes with like a scout DD roll, I barely need to use it except for to break, like Gussie said, break contact, save a cruiser, or set up a position that we want. And very rarely have I used it to just sit and gun something down. But there is some stuff you can do with smoke and concealment. Specifically, I remember there was a Yu Yang on Islands of Ice that Goreski was in a DM north of the ACAP, and I was able to smoke out from behind the little autocap island and gun down the Yu Yang while Goreski had it radared. It was kind of like mixing the spotting with the radar usage and team play, and I don't think Goreski had to expose himself either. Where I was able to sit there for a solid duration of my smoke, just shooting this Yu Yang while he ran away. But don't hesitate to use it to break contact if you're playing a scout DD. But try to save it for your. There's a ton of times that you use it to save whoever your supporting cruiser is.
I forgot to mention use it to save yourself or someone else part of it.
Yeah, if you're playing the scout DD, I like to differentiate between the scout DD role and the DPS DD role, which Haragumo feels pretty good, and some could argue maybe like Khabarovsk, or even like a Chadville Grozovoy or whatever.
Khabarovsk could, Chadville Grozovoy, or Minotaur almost does as well.
Yeah. If you're playing the scout DD role, save your smokes, use it for self-preservation, use it for team play type stuff. But if I could switch my smoke for a TRB, I'd do an RB. Because I don't, smoke and good detection beats smoke pretty much any day. But then
it's also worth mentioning that in general, Adopt doesn't really rely on smoke as much as some teams do. Not really something we do very often.
It's sort of a risky strategy to say, this is what we're going to do, this is our plan. If you're executing a plan and it works out, it's really good, but... Or at least I don't think any time we've said, okay, our plan is we'll move our 2 Zhaos into the smoke and they'll fire for a while undetected. We've had great success. As in, we haven't had great success doing that.
Also, if you guys want, I created a training room under my name, and just head on into there. Password's lowercase adopt.
Yeah, you guys can go do that. There's some exercises. I'll join you guys in a few minutes. I have to go feed the dogs, and the idea is, I guess Lark can explain it better, but the main idea is we're gonna have some of our more like veteran players join you guys, play in general ships that we're pretty comfortable in, and your goal is to spot us without getting spotted yourselves and use your teamwork to try to take us down. We're not going to be like super aggressively fighting back. More just the exercise that, again, with these, we want to talk a little bit, prove 1 point, and this one is know your spotting range and how your spotting works and how to use it in CB and, clan battles, and that's about it. We just want that 1 point to take away by the end of this night, that you're just thinking of that. That's all we really want, so. I will be right back, and I will join you guys there.
Alright, all the information for the training room is in Adopt announcements, everyone.
Dude, I almost guessed it right the first time, except I did all caps Adopt.
Carrie just having an excuse to ping everyone.
Why did you ping me? Get out of here, Gazaro.